afraid. I had stepped out and on faith. I wanted to give back what he gave to me. So and made a brand new start. I sang from my soul. Passion kept me holding on. You can make it. Do what you gotta do. Do what you got to do. Keep your head up. You can make it. Oh, go on now. You can make it. Yeah. Do what you got to do. What you gotta do. Listen, holler if you hear me. Yeah. Tell me, can you feel me? Yeah. Holler if you're with me. Yeah. You hear what I'm saying? Say, yeah. Holler if you hear me. Yeah. And tell me, can you feel me? Yeah. Holler if you're with me. If you hear what I'm saying, say, yeah. You can make it.
Around the world, I want to talk about the one I love. I know a lot of times we forget how they take good care of you, but tonight I just want to express the way I feel. Oh baby, funny how things have changed in my life now. Whether near or far, I wanna be where you are. And you're like a rose that blooms in my garden, innocent and sweet, my love, you are. But one thing I know, girl, loving you is easy. said.
The closer I get to you, the more you make me feel.
Talk to me, baby.
I'm loving you. 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 I never thought I'd be uttering words I never thought I could say. Now it's become so clear. Because of you, my night has found a new day. I never thought I could fall. I never thought my walls could fall. Because of the love I have for you, nothing can separate us two. Never thought that you would be the one. My love for you is like the ocean. My love is real, my love is true. No matter what you got to know, I love you. Yeah. Oh, I love you. Only you. I love you. Oh, I love you.
The closer I get to you, I can't deny the love that we share. My life is now complete because I found someone who cares for me.
Oh, baby, I know you're the one. Meant for me. And even when our lives are done,
The one and the same, this will never change. The love that we have, it will never fade.
never thought that you would be
1690
the
AM, the one.
My love for
It
you
is the
like
format, it is
ocean.
Friday night.
My love is real, my love
back
is true.
again.
No matter what you
Last
do,
Friday of January.
I love you.
So we got the show tonight with a song from the guest I had last week, Bars Up Entertainment from Loveless and BC. This is Sex and Champagne, and we will play this and get right back to you.
Million different ways to get you out. Sex and champagne is all it costs. You've been staring all night from across the bar. Come on over, tell you what to order, girl. It's
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne,
I can get you right, probably blow your brain with this.
sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
Spend a night with me, your life will never be the same, girl. I'm lost in you, and the couple bottles I've been pouring up. The things I do, baby, if you let me, I can tear it up. These lights alone when this wine is up, and excuse me, girl, but you fine. Let's take one more shot like time is up, and I'ma take you home, so tell her line it up. When we take off, it's on now, give it all we got, then we fall out. I ain't wanna really let my guard down, but you the only thing that I want now, yeah. Hold up, I think I'm faded, you just, nah. I think I'm too faded, yeah, but tell him keep it moving, girl, don't ask me how I'm doing. I've been good since I pulled up, so if you want it, I can got do it. Got about a million different ways to get you off. You want it? Sex and champagne is all it costs. I know you want it. You've been staring all night from across the bar. Yeah, I know that. Come on over, tell you what to order, girl. It's
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne,
I can get you right, probably blow your brain with this.
sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
Spend a night with me, your life will never be the same, girl. You see my team, see the mouse where they never gave me nothing, girl. I did it on my own, blowing all this money on it, spending all these nights alone, working like a mom just to sing you a song, girl. I never met no one like you. You down to ride 'cause I like to. I'm gonna control, but you're around, got me feeling right too. That's real. I ain't told no lie around 'cause he's gon' lie, but you get it. If you're ready, just let me know. We can go all night. Just let it out 'cause I got you, baby. I keep the flame just like Walker, baby. You can call me crazy. Keep a name out the mouth, gets talking crazy. Snakes out to get me. I'm a dude, your position. Kama Sutra in a life, they don't seem real at all. Tonight, girl, I'm just trying to feel it out. Got about a million different ways to get you off. You want it? Sex and champagne is all it costs. You want it? We've been staring all night from across the bar. Yeah, I know this. Come on over, tell you what to order, girl, it's
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
I can get you right, probably blow your brain with this
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
Spend a night with me, your life would never be the same, girl. I told her reach in my pocket if it's cash that makes you drop it low. Girl, take it all and drop it. I've been drinking since about 6 and it's about 3 clicks to your apartment. I don't usually come here and you don't get out too often. Yo, dressed up in that short dress, low cut, I can see it all. Ooh, you're so sexy, let me take it off so I can see it all. The way you move your body, I can tell that you ain't new at all. So let me be the one you call when you're all alone with champagne and it's nighttime and you're ready. I'll slide through more champagne and we'll pour up and get busy. She got a man to take care of her, but he's always gone, so let's get it. You ain't gon' forget it. No lazy love, we sweating, talking 3 or 4 rounds. We gon' go until it KO. I put in work to get it, yes, I don't take no. You can make the rules, baby, what you say, go. Elevator going up to the top floor. Got about a million different ways to get you off. You want it? Sexy champagne is all it costs. You want it? You've been staring all night from across the bar. Yeah, I know this. Come on over, tell you what to order, girl. It's
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
I can get you right, probably blow your brain with this
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
Spend a night with me, your life will never be the same, girl. A million different ways to get you off.
Champagne,
Sexy champagne is all it costs. You've been staring all night from across the bar.
sexy champagne.
Come on over, tell you what to order, girl. It's
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
I can get you right, probably blow your brain with this
Sexy champagne, sexy champagne.
Spend a night with me, your life will never be the same, girl. Never be the same, girl. Never be the same, girl. Spend a night with me, your life will never be the same, girl.
1690 AM, the one. That was Sex and Champagne by Loveless and BC, who stopped by the studio last week representing Lincoln, Nebraska, and Bars Up ENT. Stopped by with some information about the new mixtape they're going to be dropping here shortly, and talking about their experiences with music and stuff. So big shout out to Bars Up Entertainment. Look for them to come back on the show. So let me adjust my mics here real quick. Anyway, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but hopefully. So going through the current events that are going on, and there's some things that I want to get to tonight, and hopefully have a guest stopping in a little bit later, but was on MSNBC's website, and just looking over some stuff that's been going on, some crazy stuff that's been going on in the world lately, and I come across this article. I've known quite a few people, about a handful of people who are cancer survivors, and have struggled through it, and anybody that knows who has gone through cancer, understands
This winter, I've got
understands the difficulty that is, or what that takes place, or what that entails. But anyway, so I'm reading this article, and I'm an avid Walmart shopper. I will admit there are things at Walmart you can get for a hell of a lot cheaper than that you can get normally anywhere else. But this was the article. This was a jeer. This wasn't a cheer. It was a jeer on Walmart's part. As Walmart allegedly humiliates cancer survivor and makes her show her scars. But this Missouri woman went to go return a $13 book at Walmart, and she, was basically humiliated in the process. The unidentified woman who didn't have a receipt, um, the book was given to her as a gift. Excuse me. So she went to go take the book back, and the lady behind the desk um, was being difficult and went through this whole interrogation process, basically. So she had to show her her ID and in the identification, her driver's license. The lady had long blonde hair, but now she had cropped brown cut hair after she had gone through several rounds of chemotherapy. And anybody who understands what chemotherapy, it kills the hair. So she had been back and forth with this and started just finally growing her hair back. But anyway, it didn't necessarily match the picture in her driver's license. So the Walmart staffer quizzed her about her hairstyle until the woman said she had cancer. And the employee, disgustingly rolled her eyes and interrogated her some more before calling the manager. And then those two repeatedly asked the woman questions about her story, in which she was finally just like fed up with it. She just wanted to get everything over, so she verified her story about having cancer by showing her mastectomy scars. And at this point, there was a group of people behind her. Obviously, most WalMarts are fairly busy, but in the busy time of the day, just to get the whole situation over with, this lady, a mastectomy is personal to women. A lot of women take it to heart, and it's real personal with them. But to get this whole thing over with, she showed the scars. And the lady has said that she just wanted to get this over with. And none of that was her business. But they finally, after that whole process, finally allowed this lady to take back a book that was $13. And and then after that, there was complaints with the store. There was some complaints with some other guests who were there, and the situation was, she was basically humiliated for $13 by this Walmart staff. And being a employee of Walmart way back in the day, that's not even, none of that stuff's even in their policy. As far as anything like that is concerned, really anything over $25 is basically really just supposed to be just kind of, return it, give them a gift card, whatever the case may be. But that wasn't the situation. And there was representatives from Walmart who called the lady and made a public apology. But the thing is like, that situation is already done. The lady's already been humiliated. It's basically reliving everything that she had to go through. And not necessarily being fulfilled. What's an apology? Obviously, she probably won't be going back. I know I wouldn't. I would be beyond upset. And I was just reading some of these other comments that some of these people had made on this article, and they're talking about firing this people. That the woman's hair changed, not her face. People cut their hair, change their color all the time. It's just adding insult to injury. Walmart owes her more than an apology. Some say file a lawsuit. Humiliation is worth more than an apology. A lot of people are saying that this is typical Walmart behavior. That, there's not really a high caliber of employees working at Walmart. And that may be the case, but I think I personally feel like the manager, and that employee should be terminated. Especially the employee that rolled her eyes. That was very insensitive. I mean, even if the lady says she had AIDS, I mean, what did she expect her to do? Go get a blood test and bring back the results? It doesn't really make much sense. But there wasn't really any compassion there. There wasn't anything. And this was for a $13 book. This wasn't like she bought a damn car at Walmart or bought something thoroughly expensive at Walmart. She bought, and it was given to her as a gift. At that. But anyway, I was kind of upset about that, because it's just some people don't have really, especially nowadays, people don't have any type of compassion, and they don't really care about anybody else besides themselves. And there are some pretty damn rude people at Walmart. And I understand why they work there. They all work together. They can all be, degenerates and all other stuff. And Walmart has a long history of having employees that do that, so it's not really a surprise. If you just said someone like, J.C. Penney's or Target or something like that, it might be a little different, but they have a history of that. So anyway, so speaking of lawsuits, and this is something else I read. What was that? Where was this article at? Anyway, the article was, when I was talking about lawsuits in that last article, a very frivolous, very stupid, very ridiculous, and whatever word that you can come up with, lawsuit was filed this week against one of the major fast food corporations. And I don't even know if you can really consider them fast food, because I don't really know if they have, if they qualify for something like that. But anyway, two gentlemen had filed a lawsuit against Subway, the sandwich place, complaining that over the past couple years that they have eaten there on a regular basis, they have noticed that their sandwiches have become smaller. So what they did was, over the last couple months, they had eaten at 17 different restaurants, in which they measured their sandwiches at each place and have found that the 12-inch sandwich, the foot-long sandwich, is not exactly a foot long. It is a bit short. I think they said like 11 3/4 inches, which, there's a whole nother category of people that goes along with something like that, the frivolous lawsuits. And everybody knows with these lawsuits with fast food companies, we had a couple years ago, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, the coffee, the food, people suing fast food places because they were becoming overweight, because the coffee was too hot, because the ketchup didn't taste like ketchup, because whatever the case may be. But anyway, a spokesperson for Subway had said that they go by a certain company standard in which they require all their franchises to bake its exact, or the company has already noted last week that the bread length could vary in franchises. which don't bake to its exact specifications, and would reinforce policies to ensure consistency. In a statement today, Subway expressed, regret for any instance where we did not fully deliver on a promise to our customers. Um, so I mean, really, and they're suing for monetary damages. It doesn't say exactly how much they're suing for, but they're suing for monetary damage, um, and loss of wages or some other ridiculous stuff, which I don't know. I think it's stupid. I don't know. They didn't list the two guys' names. They didn't show any pictures, but it is in a rundown part of, I believe it was New Jersey. I'm not saying New Jersey, not saying anything bad about New Jersey, but there are some places there who aren't so clean and aren't so uh, let's just say lack for better word, clean. Trying to possibly get some money or whatever, free food. I don't know what the case may be, but anyway, this is super frivolous. It's ridiculous, and they should be fired. Those two people should be fired from life. Yep, that's what I believe. I believe that's what it should be. And we did. Who was it? Ernie Chambers. Did that a few years back. Was just showing one of the things that I liked that Ernie Chambers did was show how frivolous lawsuits were when he took God to court, and obviously he never showed up for that case. So yeah, I mean, I don't understand what people's issue is with life, or I don't know, maybe they saw a way to make some money. Who knows? But I mean, if you look at a Subway sandwich, or if you look at any footlong sandwich, do you really automatically think, you know what? That is not 12 inches. That looks like 11 3/4 inches. Where's the tape measure at? Anyway, so that was the two stories I thought were pretty stupid. I had looked at some other things and was going over some of this obvious gun ban situation that Dianne Feinstein, who is in, I believe she's in New York. That's where I want to say she's at. But she came up with a list of 150 different guns that should be or on the current gun ban list proposal. The final list actually could be a lot more, and I have read somewhere that it could be anywhere over 200. And I didn't even know there were. I mean, I know a little bit about guns, but I didn't really necessarily know that there was over 200 different assault rifles or assault weapons. But looking at the list here, I've never even heard of half of these guns. But anyway, whatever. Obviously, it's another reason for the government just to have control over people. Just take away, your God-given right to protect your family or protect yourself. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. But it's funny. It's funny how you look at it like this. All the shootings that have happened in the past 10 years, starting back with Columbine. We had Columbine, then we had a couple other ones. We had the Virginia Tech shooting. There was one at Northern Illinois. What was the Aurora shooting, the theater, the Batman killer, and a few other ones. There's probably 30 or 40 of them that have happened in the last 10 years, and nobody has said anything. There's not, who was it, Clinton and Bush, never ever once said anything about banning weapons at all, about banning assault rifles, about banning any of that stuff. And I mean, I think it's ridiculous that they have gone to this extent, and they have moved. And I was just discussing this with a few people at lunch today. how fast they have moved on, how fast they have moved on this whole bill. I mean, the whole Sandy Hook, and that's a whole nother topic. But after Sandy Hook, I mean, it was like 2 days later. It was like, I don't even. The paper, the ink didn't even dry on the paper before they were even talking about banning weapons. And we all know who the main culprit is behind all this. And I don't even want to say, but we all know that the president has a strong urge to take away Americans' rights to own weapons, which has been our given right since they created the Constitution. The Bill of Rights and all that other stuff was given to us to in which we were enabled to protect ourselves from the government. And slowly they are being taken away from us with the situation. But it's what does it happen? December 14th, I believe. Was it 15th? It was about a week before Christmas. This is the 25th of January, and we already have New York has already fallen in line and has already created a bill, preventing people from owning a gun with a clip, or with a clip that's holds anything over 7 rounds, which has become to them a federal offense. If you get caught with anything over 7 rounds, it has become a federal offense. But I mean, it's how fast. I mean, really, how fast? That was super fast, and I mean, without even realizing it, and with that situation right there, they didn't even bother. They didn't even bother to mention the fact that there has been 4 or 5 other shootings since then. We fail to realize, and we fail to put that out there. I mean, there's 1,500 newspapers, there's 1,100 magazines, 9,000 radio stations, like 1,500 TV stations, 2,400 publishing companies, and they're all owned by 3 corporations. And those 3 corporations, and in turn, are owned by the government. So they basically put out there exactly what they want you to know, exactly what they want you to see. And then these people who are out there who believe everything that they read in the newspaper, believe everything that's on the internet, believe everything that's on TV, believe everything the president says, because he's our savior. And in return, they want to take away their Second Amendment right. They want to take away all these guns. They want to do all this stuff. And sorry, but there's a lot more people who are stockpiling a whole plethora of weapons, all that stuff. People are not going to give this stuff up. People are not going to do it. You're not going to take away something that our forefathers gave us hundreds of years ago, and our ancestors and their ancestors gave their life on American soil, on other parts of the world, so we could have that right. And you have this president who, is, I really don't want to get into exactly what type of person this is, but, we all know what Obama is like and all that, but, it bothers me to see how fast that they moved on that. And, pretty soon, it's going to get worse, and this is just the start of it. A friend of mine had posted a quote by somebody who lived in, who was a dictator, if you want to call it that. But I think it was, what was his name? We all know what his name was. Let me find it here. Well, I believe it was Hitler. I believe it was Hitler who yeah, it was to conquer a nation, you must first disarm all citizens. And I believe he said that in 1933. And which, and not saying that he was, by no means do I support him at all, but that quote rings true today. I mean, he's really following people before who had led strong groups of people, and today, you know, um, his Nazi group back then would be similar to how FEMA is ran today. Um, and he has given them executive order to, when he signed martial law in, to apprehend, to lock people up, for whatever reason it may be, and hold them against their will because of certain profiling. I mean, he is. I mean, I don't. He's. I mean, there was another article that I believe he was trying to get to pass, but I think it went something like there was a place in Texas that Obama had ordered sheriffs of small towns and rather larger towns to go door to door and search for weapons. There was a place in Texas actually, and this was the Collin County Sheriff, outside of Dallas, had refused 127 of the sheriffs to go across the. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was 127 total sheriffs from across the nation that denounced President Obama's proposed gun control legislation. The sheriffs explained that the recent gun deaths have prompted politicians to pass laws that would seriously erode the constitutional rights of innocent and law-abiding citizens. Neither I nor any of the deputies will participate in the enforcement of laws that violate our precious Constitution rights, including our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And now, going on to CBS News on Monday, a dozen of Missouri sheriffs, including newly elected Osage County Sheriff, I believe his name is Michael Dixon, I believe what his name was, has signed on to Sheriff Heiss's letter to Obama, stating that they refuse to enforce the proposed gun laws. The names of all of Missouri sheriffs have not been released yet. One lawman, Arapahoe County Sheriff Grayson Robinson, I believe his name was, publicly disagreed with the growing position taken by his fellow sheriffs. Sheriff Robinson said something along the lines that public safety professionals who serve in the executive branch don't have the constitutional authority nor the responsibility, in most cases, the credentials that determine the constitutionality of the issue. Law enforcement officials should leave the courts to decide whether a law is constitutional, or not. In these door-to-door gun searches, feds, like in New York, can't enforce gun bans. Other law enforcement officials not publicly taking sides of the president's proposed gun laws have questioned new federal gun legislation, how that would be enforced. The law bans currently in New York legally possessed assault weapons and requires owners of such weapons to register them within the state or with the state within a year or sell them to an authorized dealer. But most of the sheriffs wonder how the law could even be enforced, aside from searching door to door for such weapons, which raises the specter of massive, violating your Fourth Amendment right, which would be illegal search and seizure. You can't really go door to door and ask, to be in your house. I mean, there's no reasonable cause. Your next door neighbor is 78 years old, and the only time you see this guy or lady is when they go out with their walker to the end of the street to get their mail, to get the paper, to when they go down the street to the grocery store to get groceries. You're going to kick their door in and run through their house because you think they might have a gun. I mean, that is invasion of the Fourth Amendment, of your Fourth Amendment right. There's no probable cause, really. And we don't know where these guns are because they're not registered. And again, they don't certainly have the manpower to start going to every person in these counties to see if they have a gun. I mean, I don't truly believe that they're going to do that. Basically, because if you enforced all your manpower to go to, these door to door, who's gonna control the city? Who's gonna watch over banks or car accidents or people who have been in whatever type of accidents, deaths, or all the stuff that policemen are required to show up at, traffic stops or anything like that. So you mean to tell me you're just gonna let the whole rest of the counties run amok and run wild and do whatever they want to do because you're too busy not going door to door looking for guns? I mean, at the end of the day, with some of these smaller counties, I mean, how many guns are you really gonna find? I mean, that's I don't know. But it's popular support for new gun laws. As it dies down, the reason that takes place of these gun control, these gun right activists may discover that the president's gun proposal, ultimately have no credibility. Don't really have a leg to stand on. But at least 127 of possible 139, counting pending declarations from like 12 different Missouri sheriffs, now publicly oppose proposed federal gun bans and will not enforce them should they become a law. They provide the list of those sheriffs to you below, in these lists, as of 2 days ago. And they're constantly searching up, and I believe they have listed all the officers' names in all these counties, which I believe also is, I don't think they should be allowed to do that. I mean, that's just the same thing that they were doing in Connecticut when they were releasing the names and addresses of all the people who own weapons. In turn, a couple weeks later, there was a block where they had released names and addresses of people who had guns. There was these burglars, or whoever you want to call them, breaking in these houses trying to steal these weapons. I don't really know necessarily how much good this is going to do. I mean, it seems like it's become a cycle, a vicious cycle of whatever, of violence. But I commend these sheriffs for saying no. I mean, they really could go against. They could say yes, but I think in the same turn, they're smart. I mean, a lot of these sheriffs are by themselves. And say you got 2 or 3 of them, and you come up to a house way out in the boonies, and you have absolutely no idea who's in this house. And a lot of those good old boys, who live in those small counties, especially in the southern states, who don't really like or care for law enforcement, you could have several different sheriffs come up not necessarily missing, but come up dead. And and then what? And then it's a whole nother cycle of, it's not gonna work. And sending sheriffs and these small-time enforcers of your law what does that do? That's not really going to do anything. It just kind of shows the type of caliber and the type of character you have. I mean, really, he's sending, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, South Carolina. These are all states that actually filed to be amended from the U.S. These are all states who wanted to be their own separate entities within the United States. They were going to create their own laws. They were going to handle everything themselves. So you're definitely not going to have all them on board. And looking at some of these in Texas in North or South Carolina alone, you have 28, 30, 58 sheriffs who refuse to do this. So, I don't know. There's still more talk about this. Like I said, they just recently was talking about this 150 different types of guns that he wants to, if he has to, flex his dictatorial muscle, and use executive order to pass all this. And, calling the movement to ban, abolish, and even confiscate firearms from American citizens has become like a moral issue in the wake of, the Sandy Hook school massacre. Biden, who heads an Obama-appointed task force that will recommend sweeping gun control measures on all Americans. He met with victim groups and outlined Obama's plan to act on his own should Congress fail to do as Obama demands in regards to his effort to establish a federal gun grab. These are executive orders. There's executive action that will be taken. We haven't even decided what that is, or they haven't even decided what that is yet, but they're compiling it, or we're compiling it with all the help of the attorney generals and the rest of the cabinet members, as well as legislation action that we believe is required. So it's critically important that they act, or that's what they're saying. As the president said, if your actions result in only saving one life, then they're worth taking. He said, as the president said, if your actions result in only one, or in saving only one life, they're worth taking. But I'm convinced we can have an effect of well-beings of millions of Americans and take thousands of people out of harm's way if you act responsibly. And acting responsibly means banning, restricting, even confiscating guns from the American people. Obviously, executive order trumps the Constitution, as Obama states media and ruling class continue to establish the narrative and fuel for Americans to surrender their arms to the Obama regime, either willingly or via intimidation, such as publishing the names of all gun owners. And the only thing is going to make it harder to do is for law-abiding citizens is to buy firearms and defend themselves. Criminals will always have guns. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a shoplifter, drug dealer, if whatever you're doing, if you're out there breaking the law, stealing cars, whatever, robbing people, kidnapping people from Blue Moon Fitness, doing things like that, you're always going to have a gun. It doesn't matter. You could take every single gun off the street, but you can't take every single gun out of every place in the world. That's just not going to happen. And you can use all the executive order that you want, but sooner or later someone's going to just be fed up with it and, going to get tired of people pushing their authority around, when they don't really have the authority to do so. And how long before it becomes a civil war on American ground? And it's going to come to that. They just don't really see it. Well, I guess he probably expects people to just lay down and do whatever he says because he's the president. But I don't really believe in that. I believe there's going to be more people who fight against that than anything. And who knows what the outcome of that will be. But I don't really foresee it being anything good. That's for sure. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about what's going on with this gun ban. We're gonna take a break, and play some more music from a couple local artists. Her name is Shy Sakari, and she is with Late Night and Icon One Records, who hopefully I can get her in the studio within the next couple weeks. Young, talented. So this is I Know How It Feels by Shy Sakari. We'll be back in a minute.
Nobody knew and nobody knows. Nobody knew and nobody knows. I know how it feels. Nobody knew and nobody knows. They can't understand how my mind flows. Only me, myself, and I know how my story goes. I never told anyone, but here it goes. Little kid depressed, sick and tired of cold mess. Trying to tell myself this ain't real, it's just a test. Stuck in a place, not a home, nowhere to go. Only person I had is gone. Where did you go? Feel like I'm in an empty house, but it's filled with people. Acting like they care, but in their eyes I see the evil. Throwing up at night, I make myself sick. Thinking so hard, why can't I shake this? No confidence and no heart. That's how I was at the very start. I still feel alone when I'm not alone. My heart's filled with gold, but yet I'm so cold. To be misunderstood for you like you in a place you don't belong. I know how it feels when you feel like nobody loves you, like you all on your own. I know how it feels when you feel like hurting yourself will make all that pain go away. I know how it feels every night you pray to escape. When you wake, you in the same place. I know how it feels. I wouldn't let nobody in so they couldn't hurt me, but feeling bad for myself was only hurting me. Killing myself slowly, I didn't realize until that day when I looked deep into my eyes, into my heart, and into my soul. And then I realized, damn, I need a new start. So I told myself to get up and shut up, to wipe them damn tears and suck this shit up. Now all that shit I've been through and now gives me strength. Pain don't last forever, just think. What anyone gotta say I'm gonna thank. What anyone gotta say I'm gonna thank. I've been through hell and back, and I made it through. So can't nobody tell me what I can't do. I got rid of all the evil, then I spelled it backwards. Live, I'ma live my happy ever after. To be misunderstood for you like you in a place you don't belong. I know how it feels when you feel like nobody loves you, like you all on your own. I know how it feels when you feel like hurting yourself will make all that pain go away. I know how it feels every night you pray to escape. When you wake, you in the same place. I know how it feels. Nobody knew and nobody knows. Nobody knew and nobody knows. I know how it feels. Nobody knew and nobody knows. I know how it feels. Nobody knew and nobody knows. But I know.
yes I do. I'd rather be with you until that day will fly away. I just love that smiling face in the early sun. If I can't have you to myself, then life's no fun.
I'd rather be with you, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be with you. I'd rather be with you, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be with you.
I want to hold your hand, oh, if I can, just be a man. I wanna be your friend, not now and then, but until the end. I just love the way you act, and that's a fact. I wanna be your number one, so get to that. I'd rather be with you until I'm through. Oh, yes, I do. I'd rather be with you until that day will fly away. I just love that smiling face in the early sun. If I can't have you to myself, then life's no fun.
I'd rather be with you, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be with you. I'd rather be with you, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be with you.
Oh, man. You might think I'm trying to be funny, but I'm really serious this time, baby. Even though it's a cold world, baby, but you know deep down inside that I do love you. I know I sound strange, but I really mean it. We're gonna make it this time, baby. You're the only one.
Yeah.
I really love it. I'm coming at you with both hands tied behind my back, baby.
I'd rather be with you.
You got me.
Yeah.
I'm coming at you. Get ready. I'm gonna stick my love in your
1690 AM the one. It's the format, and we are back. And while I was on break, I actually had something else I wanted to talk about, but for some reason I caught this small article at the bottom of the this page I was looking at, and this is for all the people who enjoy eating Burger King. I know I had a bad experience with the chicken sandwich a while back, and I've refused to eat anything Burger or King since then. And so Burger King, the fast food chain, no longer buying beef from Irish suppliers or anybody outside the United States. From the UK, restaurants, after after DNA, after they had tested some of the beef at some of the Burger King restaurants in London, Dublin, possibly here in the United States. Beef products sold in these countries contained horse meat. One of the popular food chains in Britain, Ireland, said Thursday that it stopped using one of the firms caught up in the scandal of supplying grocers with meat that has contained horse meat in it. Yeah. And the scandal actually left Ireland with $2.6 billion or $2.6 billion beef industry, which accounts for 21% of all the country's food and drink exports. Really, the first major knock from an effect from this discovery. Food safety experts say that the horse meat poses no added health risk to consumers, but the discovery has raised concerns about the food supply chain and the ability to trace meat's ingredients. The official website from Burger King said it decided to replace all products from these countries with another approved supplier. As a voluntary and precautionary measure, Burger King, famed for its flamed grilled burger, said we are working diligently to identify suppliers that can produce 100% pure beef that meets our high quality standards. Beef products from these grocers, which revealed last week that tested positive for horse DNA, were produced in processing plants, all in these suppliers, processing plants from the suppliers that they get their meat from. So Burger King has said that they're looking into other sources to try and find beef, but the president of the Food Safety Authority told them that on Thursday that several of them have the capacity to take up 800-ton burger contracts, and there would be plenty of available meat to fill this contract. Yeah. Disgusting. This is probably why so many people get sickly ill from eating Burger King. If he's listening, I know someone who ate Burger King the other day, and when I found out, I was like, Burger King. Troy, if you were listening right now, you were eating horse meat, probably. Disgusting. Anyway, back to what I originally wanted to talk about was the North Carolina lawmakers want to ban lottery sales for people on welfare, and big kudos to them. Cheers. Wish I had some I could play, some applause or something. See if I can find something. But anyway, so North Carolina Rep. Paul Stam says customers who use food stamps to pay for groceries shouldn't be allowed to buy lottery tickets. At the same time, nor at all people on welfare wouldn't be allowed to buy lottery tickets if a North Carolina state lawmaker has his way. Republican Paul Skip Stam, a Republican from Wake, is backing a proposal to ban lottery retailers from knowingly selling lottery or tickets to customers who receive public assistance such as food stamps or are in bankruptcy, according to the Raleigh the News Observer's Under the Dome blog. We're giving them welfare to help them live, and yet by selling them a ticket, we're taking away their money that is there to provide them with the barest of necessities, Stam was quoted as saying. How would retailers know if a person wanting to buy a ticket is on public assistance? Stam acknowledges that it won't be easy to determine, but he says if customers are paying for groceries with food stamps, for example, they shouldn't be allowed to buy lottery tickets at the same time. He says many people who are attracted to the lottery don't have much disposable cash and may not understand the odds of winning are stacked against them. Where was I at? Not everyone is keen on Stam's idea. The Reverend William Barber, president of the North Carolina NAACP, said lawmakers should focus on wages instead of the new lottery laws. The NAACP, we didn't agree with the lottery to start with. Rather than Mr. Stam having a side argument, ask him to stop blocking labor rights to poor people and working people. Ask him to have a real conversation about real wages. I believe that is a legitimate argument. I mean, look, and I'm about to go on a rant about welfare here real quick. People who are on welfare, and I was told today that the people on welfare under this new Obama presidency outweighs the people who are employed by probably 10 million. I think it's probably in 30 million people, 34 million people, somewhere along those lines of people who are on welfare. With that being said, not pointing out any type of race or anything like that, but simply saying this. There are people who have lost their jobs, who have been laid off, who are struggling to make ends meet. And anybody who has any type of common sense knows that, especially if you have children, the first thing that you should do is put food on the damn table. And if you don't have a job, I mean, if you're just struggling to make ends meet, you're spending that money first to make sure that you have food in your mouth. There are people, several people here, everywhere, I've seen personally, go to the store, and we all know what time of the month it is. They go to the store and they fill carts up with food. They fill numerous carts up with food. And these are people who don't deserve this stuff. These are people who have found it to be okay to live off the system because the system allows it to. Because we have a leader who says, oh, well, we should give them money because they are struggling. We should help them, we should do this. We should let them suckle from the American breast that we have so eloquently provided for them, and allow them to be babied by everybody who works their ass off in the United States. With that being said, why should you be allowed to buy a scratch-off ticket? Why should you be allowed to buy a lottery ticket, a Mega Millions ticket, pick 5, pick 30, pick your nose, pick any of that? You are using that money. You should be using that money to provide nourishment for the people in your house. Now, I have witnessed some bartering, if you will. A couple weeks ago, I was at the Baker's on Ames Street, and I had noticed that there was a group of people who were walking or listing groceries in their carts, and there was 2 people who were going through and doing all this other stuff. And the person I was with, we were talking about it, and so we had went out and we were talking about something, and went out and they were transferring these groceries into somebody else's car on the side of the building. Now, I know that I have been propositioned to buy EBT cards and all this other stuff for pennies on the dollar. There was a lady who said that she gets $900 a month. $900 a month for her and her 2 kids. A month. And do the math real quick. That's a whole hell of a lot of money a year for food that you're getting. This is money that's being taken out of a mother who's working 2 jobs, who can't afford daycare, who hardly probably ever sees her children, a single mother trying to better her life, maybe going to school, whatever the case may be. But she can't get assistance because a group of people or multiple people are sitting on their asses collecting this money, this stuff monthly, and these other people deserve it. These other people need it. But, our fearless leader doesn't see it that way. Everybody should have a chance. Let's give them more. Let's give them a phone. Let's give them a house. Let's give them a computer. Let's give them a free education. Let's give them free trips. Shit, let's give them whatever they want to. We might as well. You're giving them everything else. You're telling them it's okay to be this type of individual. See, and everybody, I go on my rants about this stuff, but everybody thinks that this is so great. I'm waiting until Obamacare comes in. I have a friend who I was talking to the other day, and side note from the food stamps and welfare, I'll get back to that second. But I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was an avid listener of this show, and his name's Steven. And he was talking to me yesterday. I just hit him up on Facebook and was like, hey, what's going on? And he was like, I'm filling out job request or, applications and stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, well, what's up? And he was telling me that, this company that he's been working for I believe 3 years, is closing. And moving all of their people they create medical devices. They're a medical device company. But now, since Obamacare is getting ready to flood the nation, their company is closing up their doors, packing up, and shipping all their work to China. And he was like, I haven't been an employee here for as long as a lot of these other people, but 3 years is still a lot of time to put in with anybody. I don't care if you're delivering newspapers, flipping burgers, or if you're, a manager somewhere. 3 years is a lot of time. And, he was talking about, how sad it is to see all this, and he's, and especially since he's working on closing the place and knowing in a couple months that it's going to be gone. And it's sad because, a good dude, works hard, probably provides for his family and stuff like that. And so, because of this Obamacare stuff, they're being taxed 13% on top of everything else to help pay for this ridiculous healthcare system that's going on. And and so they're going to pack up and they're going to send, the company was rather large. It wasn't a 2 or 3, 30 or 40 people. It was 100 people. It was 100 people who were going to be without a job. And I don't know. And I was having a talk with somebody else actually who, a friend of mine had posted something about this Obamacare, whatever. And this other dude had mentioned something along the lines. He says, not true. No, they had asked, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but the president, this was a quote, an actual question, in regards to the healthcare system. And someone said, Mr. President, will you and your family give up your current healthcare program and join the new universal healthcare program that the rest of us will be on? There was a silence, and Obama ignored the question and chose not to answer it. In addition, a number of senators were asked the very same question, and the response was, we will think about it. And they did. It was announced today on the news, or a couple of days ago, that the Kennedy healthcare bill was written into the new healthcare reform initiative, ensuring that Congress will be 100% exempt from all of that. So this great new healthcare plan that is good for you, good for me, good for your neighbors, good for the person down the street, is not good enough for Obama, his family, Congress, or anybody who's involved with that. So we wrote that the American public needs to stop this proposed debacle before it gets, try to stop it before it's fully put in motion. Um, I can only went on to saying I can only accept a universal health care overhaul that extends to everyone, not just low citizens. I mean, we have a caller, so I will take that and I will jump back on 1690 AM the one.
Hey Ryan, this is Steve. Man, I was gonna give my personal insight into the topic of healthcare for you.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you bringing this up. Am I on there?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. I guess my point is from a ground level perspective, as somebody who's been in the medical device industry for, I started in 1999 when I got out of the Navy. And it's always been a real strong, powerful industry in America. And I know there's a difference between the mega pharma companies and a little small company like what I work for that you brought up. And I just wanted to point out to your listeners that this Obamacare is not only affecting workers, it's going to affect patients at the end of the day because when we stop building our products, they're not going to be available to patients. Grand scheme of things is that healthcare is going to decrease for everybody, not increase for nobody. The 13% medical device tax that you brought up was a part of the bill, and it affects any and every company, how small or how large that they are, that produces medical devices.
So that 13%, what did that mean? What did that mean for your company?
Well, that means that we have to decrease our cost by 13% in order to keep our products at the same price for the customer. So companies are making decisions, how can we keep the product cost the same so we can keep our business? And my company made the decision, well, we'll make this stuff in China.
Now, is the
because
cost is
labor's cheaper.
Right. That was my next question.
And without giving out the name of the company, we make hospital beds. They're very specialized. It takes a prescription to actually get these beds because they help patients in dire circumstances with extreme cases of pneumonia and things. They save lives.
Right.
And now they're not going to be available for those patients. And to me, that's not better health care.
So what does that mean? So these group of people who need the stuff, who had access to get it pre-Obamacare. What's this mean? What does that mean for people who need the stuff now? For people who have maybe a prescription for it or whatever? What does that mean for these people?
Well, that means that's not going to be an option for them anymore. If our products aren't available in America, a doctor won't be able to write a prescription for our beds to save their life. And there's been many testimonials where our beds have, you've got a grandmother sick with pneumonia. They think she's got a week to live. They put her on one of our beds and she ends up, living another 10 years. Now that option, that prescription option won't be available, all due to this tax on the company.
So what type of, people who have this as a requirement, maybe to help better their quality of life. Does this mean that their health will maybe deteriorate?
Yeah, indeed it is, because we were one of the only companies that made a product like this in this country. So it was a great prescription option for those dire circumstances that now isn't available. the unfortunate part about it all is that, people will die as a result.
And nobody and everybody thinks that this is a great thing for America. I mean, I don't, and and you and I were talking the other day, and actually, I just, I had gotten into a debate with somebody else in regards to this, this whole thing, and everybody, I think, people fail to realize, and actually, if you've ever, and I don't know, and I'm sure you probably have looked into it, but Obamacare, the whole bill written, is huge. Like, there is so many things that are hidden within this bill. I mean, they created it. There's there's all sorts of sublining and undertexting and all that stuff. It's like 1,000 pages. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you and I were talking, and I felt bad because I'm sure, without giving out the name of your company, I'm sure this is not going to be the first. I'm sure it'll fall in line as time gets closer. I'm sure there'll be other companies, maybe perhaps pharmaceutical companies, other companies who make, things that may not be as important as you guys do, but fairly important. They're not going to want to drop their prices, and therefore they'll probably do the same thing you guys are doing and ship the business or ship their jobs or company overseas.
Yeah, that is correct. A lot of medical companies are moving to either India or China because those countries have a large population, but less regulations.
Right.
Therefore, it's more cost effective for companies. Companies are out for the bottom line, so they're going to go over there and sell product.
Exactly.
And not have to worry about the mandates and the regulations. They're still going to make their money, but the patients in America aren't going to have the product.
Oh yeah, those people, those companies, like you said, they'll always. It doesn't matter. I mean, if they have to ship their companies to Iceland or one of those some foreign country to produce this stuff. But the sad part of it is once you ship that away, like you said, to India or something, the quality of your product substantially goes down. In my opinion, everything's not put together as accurately as it would be here, instead of passing the jobs off to somebody else.
Yeah, that is true. The regulatory environment that we're under with the FDA is something that I've been having to deal with for most of my adult life, and I'm here to tell you that it's a bunch of red tape. And the example I like to give to people is, let's say we didn't have an FDA that monitored our medical products that come out in the marketplace. Now, if you got one company, there was a case, I think it was in the 80s, where Tylenol had got some tainted drugs that ended up, killing some people.
Right.
So what happened was, people weren't buying Tylenol; they went to aspirin. Without the FDA having to mandate that, it was a free market decision. The consumer knew better than to buy Tylenol at that time. So you don't really need a government mandate. You need the marketplace to determine what products are effective. Patients know.
Right, and that's a very good point because, for example, what you were talking about, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, if anybody, and this is just to jump off that topic real quick, there are, how many supplements are out there, for example, or vitamins, or anybody who works out, knows that there's, a billion different supplements you can take. And none of that stuff is mandated. Everything is just slowly passed down through the line because the FDA is not, they're not big enough to monitor everything that comes through the system. So, of course, with something like that, plus with a company who has money, it's very easy to just pass something along and say that, whatever the case may be, we don't have time to look at it. There are other important things that we need to look at.
Yeah, that is true, and that, to bring up a hot topic that will definitely ring the bell. You talk about the supplements and natural remedies and things like that. Hey, there's natural products out there. Example, marijuana. It can help a lot of patients.
Right.
That's a cheap product. That's something that is useful, helpful, but it's unavailable because the drug companies don't want it out there because it's proven.
Exactly.
And people can make their own medicine at home, right? So the government being in healthcare is dangerous.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's exactly what you say. Ringing bells with that topic. Of course, they're not going to allow. That's just like the same thing. They could substantially lower the national debt and all this stuff if they allowed hemp to be. I actually know what that is. But if they allowed hemp to be produced in some of these products to create hemp, I mean, I was reading an article a few days ago about how important hemp could be in society. With creating fuel, with creating all sorts of things, and in turn with that, how many jobs would that create? But of course, like you said, they don't want to do that. They don't want to legalize weed. There's a fire somewhere. They don't want to legalize weed. They don't want to legalize any of that stuff because you're right. How many billions of dollars would that take away from the pharmaceutical companies?
That's exactly right. And even more devious than that is, why would the government want to prevent something that is helpful? If they really cared about healthcare and they really cared about patients, having a comfortable life when they're, ridden with diseases and things, if they really cared about it, why would they get in the way of proving good products to help Americans?
Right, and we all know anybody who has any type of common sense and can see with both their eyes knows that the government doesn't give two shits about anybody other than themselves. Exactly, as I just pointed out earlier about this whole Obamacare, that Congress, the Obama administration and Congress and anybody who involved with Capitol Hill or whatever is written out of that. They still get to carry on with whatever health coverage they have, but like the thing I said, if this is so great, if this is such a great thing for you and me, how come Obama, his family, Congress, or anybody else involved with that, how come they don't need it? Because there's things written in there that's not great for us. And of course, pharmaceutical companies and anybody involved with that, the government, they don't care about us. They've never cared about us. And as they take away our right to have decent doctors and decent care, it's slowly, in my opinion, it's allowing them to have some type of control over the population. There's a lot of elderly people who, won't be allowed or will be unable to afford the things that they need to continue living. Prescriptions, things like your company produces. And once you're out of that, I mean, how long is it before their life is just slowly pushed out the door? And, it's totally wrong to do anything like that. And that's why they haven't, I mean, I believe they have, but that's why they'll never formally come out with a cure for AIDS or a cure for cancer or a cure for any of those things that require people to pay hundreds, thousands of dollars a month. And that's when they turn and flip their $30-40 billion profits annually, is by keeping these people on prescriptions that they may not use or may not need, or whatever the case may be.
You're exactly right, and I guess another personal example of that, what you speak of, is I'm diabetic. Okay, so now if I was rich in Hollywood with millions of dollars, I could go to Canada and get a pancreatic treatment that they have to cure diabetes. In fact. But that's not allowed here in the United States because I have to go and see my doctor monthly, get blood tests, and multiple prescriptions. And they know, and they actually budget on me, knowing that they're going to see me every month because I need my insulin.
Right.
So they factor that into the budget. You know, this guy has to see us every month. So here I am at the doctor every month for the rest of my life. Just paying into the, into that bucket, and they don't want to lose that stream of income.
No, and how many people are out there that are just like you, who, and some people who are worse off, who have to go see the doctor maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, who are paying, who their companies, their insurance companies now, they're required to meet a certain deductible. Some of those people can't afford the high premium, so they have a higher deductible. And they're spending, they have to get, their doctor says, oh, well, you need to take it easy. But if I take it easy, I can't afford to come see you. I can't afford my meds. I can't afford any of that. So now I have to get a second job, maybe possibly a third job, just so I can live. And going against what the doctors tell me, well, you should be relaxing. Well, I can't relax. I have to work my ass off so I can afford to come see
you. That's exactly right, and it's sad because we're humans, and if there's things out there to help us, our government should be pushing for that, not these extraordinarily long bills, taxes, regulations, and all those sorts of things that are in the Obamacare that are going to degrade the quality of care in this country. Any country that has socialized medicine will tell you. Canada will tell you. Europe will tell you. Before Obamacare, America was the place to come get your health taken care of. And now we're getting brought down to the same status as everybody else. And the only loser is the American people.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. And I had just been called. I was in talks with a gentleman who just sells insurance, and we were talking over the last week, about healthcare. And he was telling me, and I had asked him just point blank about, because I was kind of curious from a perspective of somebody who actually sells healthcare. Insurance, life insurance, things like that. And I said, if I was to buy, because he was trying to propose an offer for me to buy healthcare, and I said, okay, well that's fine, that's all fine and dandy now, but in 2 years or next year, when this healthcare system takes place, how will that affect it? And he said that, now this is what you and I were discussing, that anybody who doesn't have health care now needs to get health care in the next 6, 7 months, 8 months max. Because once 2014 hits and Obamacare takes place, he said even the most healthiest people, even people who work out daily and don't have any type of health issues at all, if they don't have health insurance, what they would pay now will be double, triple, maybe even more for a premium monthly. So say my insurance that I was going to get was, I think he said like $97 a month. If I was to wait until this time next year, my premium a month could possibly be over $300 a month. And I was just like, I was kind of floored by that. I said, oh, how could somebody, who doesn't really have any type of health issues, how can they be required to pay that? And he was telling me, he's like, Obamacare is expensive, and people don't really look at the bill, but Obamacare is extremely expensive. And we were talking about the doctors and how the doctors. I've read articles about how scared the doctors are. They don't want, they don't want Obamacare to go into place, or they didn't, because then they have to drop themselves down. Like your company had to take a 13% hit. Well, doctors are going to have to take a huge, substantial amount of a hit, when this comes in. And these are the people who we depend on when your life, is on the line. You're having a heart attack or something, a gunshot wound where your life is in their hands. You're asking these people to dumb themselves down because of this whole new healthcare proposal.
Yeah, that's correct. Doctors are finding out the hard way that they can no longer afford to do what they're doing, so they're getting out of the business. In fact, I read a story about a hospital. I think it's in your neck of the woods. I'm not quite sure. It's in the Midwest somewhere. I have to look it up. But there was a hospital that said, due to the Obamacare and the new pay structure, they're no longer going to deliver babies at that hospital because it's not cost effective to do that no more.
Right.
So, to me, that's just, that's just uncalled for. And, why not leave well enough alone? And the reason is the revenue. Because, like you were saying about the folks and the premiums going up, even worse than that is that if you don't have insurance, they're going to penalize you through your income tax. They're going to say, oh, you didn't get insurance, well, we're going to take insurance money out of your income tax since you didn't get insurance because we need that money to fund Obamacare for those folks that don't have insurance.
Right. And by taking, what do they expect, when they're taking money from, Medicaid, Medicare, you're taking money from our elderly, from, our grandparents, or, if you have great-grandparents, you're taking money away from them that they need to live, to pay for that. And that's what I mean, that's what I meant by saying that they're slowly pushing the elderly, the baby boomers, and maybe a little younger, they're pushing them out the door. Because, like we're talking about, they're not really going to invest money into somebody who is probably past their 60s, maybe even 50s, because, at your 50, they're looking at, well, you potentially have maybe 10 years to live. When you're 60, they're like, okay, well, you potentially have maybe, 5 years to live. If you're 70, it could be any time. So why would we, oh, well, you had a heart attack? Oh, well, you're not going to get, and you need a triple bypass? Oh, well, we're not going to pay for that. But, you can go home and live out your final days or whatever. We're going to save that money for somebody else who needs it.
Yeah, the reason for that is they look at those folks, those older folks, those folks that aren't in the workforce no more. They look at them as used goods.
Right.
These people are no longer working. They're no longer paying the income tax, so they may as well die because they're not funding the government.
Right, and let's take their money away from them because they're not, they're basically damage control. They're basically here. They're taking up space. So of course, let's take their money away from them. And slowly we'll just push them out. But the thing that, and all these other people are happy with this Obamacare, we fail to realize that those people who actually need health care like that are the people who helped build this country. Ever since the 40s and the 50s, I mean, those are the type of people who helped build, New York and all these major industries and all these major companies. That was their blood, sweat, and tears that went into creating the economy, these companies, and things like that. They gave 30, 40, maybe even 50 years of their life for certain corporations and things like that. And now we don't care about them. It's their time's about up. let's push them out the door. Let's push them into their coffin and bury them and move on to the next batch.
Yeah, it's very sad because we've all got grandparents, we've all got older family members that we care about, and we want them to be taken care of, and we don't want them to be looked at as just a revenue stream.
Right.
That's not what they are. They're people, but the government doesn't see it that way.
No.
They see them as a revenue stream. Are they contributing to this coffer? Are they paying taxes? Are they working? That's all that matters to them.
Yeah, and of course they're not doing any of that. So, and that's where that's where a huge portion of that money. I think it was somewhere in like $716 billion of money that should be going to them, and that era instead was withdrawn from a huge bank account, whatever, whoever disperses, checks for their health care goes into this Obamacare to pay for that. And it's wrong. I mean, it's you're really stealing. You're stealing from them, really. You're not even really giving them an opportunity. You're taking their money, and in return, you're not giving them anything. You're not giving them a chance at all. You're telling them they have to abide by this, and if they don't, you're gonna tax them. How are you gonna tax somebody who doesn't have an income? How are you gonna you gonna tax their Social Security?
Yeah, and you're going to tax somebody that's already in need of health care, and they're already struggling to pay their premiums and their doctor visits. And now you're telling me that you're going to fine me because I can't afford insurance? That's just crazy.
Right. And then you want me to go out and get another job so you can tax me even more.
Yep. Yeah, so it's wrong-headed. And the way they sold it was, hey, we're America. We should be able to provide health care to everybody. And I see that. I'd like to see everybody have health care. But if you think about it, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, people had the ability to go into an emergency room without insurance, without any money, and they would get care. I mean, sure, they might get a bill and have it on their credit report and all, but still, the health care was available. And I know Ron Paul talks a lot about, when he was a practicing doctor, how back in the day, a certain percentage of his time was spent towards free health care. So those needy folks that didn't have the money, like 20% of his time was spent towards free health care for those in need. So it balanced itself out. But that's getting taken away from us again because that's no longer allowed. See,
I think you and I disagree. I don't, it's kind of a sensitive subject, really. And, when you look at it, it's based on an overall statistic. Now, I was just talking earlier about welfare and about how many people are on it who shouldn't be on it. And there is more people on welfare now than there are people who are actually employed. So now you're telling me that these people who don't work, who refuse to work, who have been given everything by, within the last 4 or 5 years, telling them, oh, it's okay to stay home, we'll take care of you. Now you're going to give them an opportunity to have health care. Now you're going to give them, and who's going to pay for that? If you're on welfare already, who's going to pay for that? You? Anybody who has a job. So they're going to continue to sit home, play their Xbox, play whatever they want to, go out and whatever they're doing for side money and continue to that because the government's giving them $700-800 a month that they don't deserve. So how can you tax somebody who's living on welfare? How can you make them pay? I think the government will give them free health care. So that means, in turn, that's where, we're going to tax these people because, that's my opinion. We're going to tax these people because, well, we got 34 million people on welfare. How are we going to pay for them to have health care if they're not working? Well, let's tax the people who are working. Let's tax them a little bit more because obviously everybody needs health care. But I don't believe that. My philosophy is, you shouldn't. If you're in need of something, if you were in need of help, it should be there for you. That's why welfare was given. It was presented to people that was in a struggle, who needed some type of support to get them to the next stage, to get them to the next stone. It wasn't created as a lifestyle. It wasn't given to you saying, okay, well, here's $900 a month for food. Here's $250 a month voucher for your living. Here's a free car. And here's all these other vouchers that you can take around town, and all these companies and businesses will accept it because it's mandated by law that they have to. So I don't I don't necessarily feel like everybody deserves health care. I
don't either. I said in a perfect world we would like to see that.
Right.
If that was a reality, but the fact is it's not a reality. It's just, you can't expect to put everybody in this country on health care and it just, be equal cost, because that's just not reality. And you're right. Welfare was designed as a stepping stone. I've used it before. I used it when I was in college. I was a single parent, and I was trying to raise 3 kids in college, so I had food stamps. That's the best I ever ate in my life, man. I had steak, barbecue every weekend, and I graduated with a degree, and it would have been real easy to say, hey, I'm comfortable. I'm just going to chill, continue to eat my steak, and stay on the, welfare. But, and that's a lot of people's attitude out there. But me being a hard worker, I knew that, hey, it's time for me to get out of the system because I'm educated and I can work. But there's millions and millions of people that are becoming dependent on those EBT cards.
Exactly.
and all that stuff. And what's that doing? That's killing the middle class, and it's also disincentivizing the folks that should be out there getting knowledge and getting out in the workforce.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I don't know. Every state is differently, but I know people in here in Nebraska. I don't know how it works down there, but people in Nebraska are compensated very well when it comes to that. And we're talking about EBTs, and actually we were discussing that at lunch today with some friends that they had put EBT in because people were complaining that food stamps embarrassed them. They didn't want to be singled out. They didn't want to be, frowned upon. But with the same breath, like you were talking about, you were on that. You used it as a crutch, which is exactly what it was put in place for. And these people are, who cares? If people go through situations in life all the time. Life's not easy. Life is struggle. There's struggles. There's hurdles you gotta jump over. You may lose your job. You gonna swallow your pride and go apply for food stamps, or you're gonna suffer. If it was, if I was in that situation, I really wouldn't care what the next person thought. But it's okay for these people to abuse the system like they have been, and they continuously do it. There's been people who've been on food stamps for years, and you go to their houses or or whatever, and they have flat screen TVs, they have an Escalade, it's like, damn, you have way more things in your living room than I have in my whole house. But where is the fairness in that? I mean, you continuously give to these people. I mean, I don't know how it works down there, but just for listener education, here in Nebraska, you get vouchers for living. There are some places here where you only have to pay for a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. I think it's probably 2. You pay $35, maybe $45 a month. Your electricity, and water, there's vouchers for that you don't have to pay for. They give you vouchers for car repairs up here. So these people who are driving around in Escalades, their cars break down, the government gives them money to fix their car. And they get gas vouchers for their car. So essentially, really, what do you have to do in life besides walk to your mailbox every the first week of the month and get your money?
That's bad news there, because I mean, once you get deep in that lifestyle, why would you even have the drive to go out and get a job? Because you've already got all your stuff taken care of.
Right.
And that's what they want. See, they want you dependent on them to the point where they say, okay, you don't do what we say, we're going to take away those vouchers. And those people that have been on those vouchers for so many years are going to do what they say, because they don't want to lose their housing and their car and their food and all that.
Well, the thing with that is, and that would be the way that you would hope it would be, but when you take away things like that, then they start crying. Oh, well, we're being discriminated against. It's not fair. We need this, we need that. We're not being treated fairly. The whole list of excuses goes on and on. But you're enabling these people to be lazy. You're enabling these people to be a statistic in society. And on the flip side of that, then you got these same people, whoever they may be, saying, "Oh well, we don't have any opportunities given to us. There's no room for us to grow. Society's keeping us down." And you look at it with this dumbfounded look on your face, is like, you have every opportunity for you. You have every opportunity given. You don't have to pay for anything. What do you have to pay for in life? That is a necessity. Your gas is being provided for you. Your car maintenance, if you need it, is being provided. So you have to come out of your pocket for your living expenses, maybe $100 a month, and you can't come up with that because the government gives you, $2,000 or $3,000, a month for all that. So you can't come up with the other part of that. I know California, and which is probably one of the reasons why California is in debt so much, but they give their people on welfare. They give their people, I think the last number I seen, people who are on welfare, they give them up to like $18,000 a year to live. If you are on welfare, they provide you with around $18,000.
And where's that money coming from?
Exactly.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, that's what I say. The government gets involved, and they just screw it up because people are smart. We work well together. My neighbor needs help working on his car, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't want to pay a mechanic. Hey, I can go over there and help him. That's the way it should be, versus the government coming in and giving them a check.
Yeah, that's like it's sad. I mean, I know, I have a couple friends who were single mothers, and they're trying everything they can do. They have 2 jobs or whatever. They're trying, going to school part-time, and trying to create a better life for themselves. But they don't get any assistance at all. Nothing. They can't even get food stamps. And it's, or, assistance from the state. It's not necessarily food stamps, it's an EBT card, but still it's the same thing. They can't get any type of assistance, because they make too much. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I need 2 jobs to live, because you're not giving me assistance, or I'm not able to get any type of help. So I have 2 jobs, and I still need assistance, and now I make too much money. You know, I mean, like I said, it's there's the revolving door, and it's the level of fairness, you know, completely gets thrown out the window. You know, when it comes to people who actually truly do need some type of assistance, they don't get it. You know. Yeah,
that's exactly right. There are those out there that really truly need it. And like I said, when I was in that situation where I had to utilize it, it was for a reason, and it was very temporary. You know, it's just making these people dependent on government is what they want, so they can control them and make them lazy and unproductive. So they'll do what they're told. It's a very sick and way of going about things, taking the human element out of things, and you know, the people that really need it aren't able to get it, and the people that don't need it are abusing it, so that those that do need it can't get it, and it's backwards.
Right. And I mean, until somebody actually comes along and really puts forth an effort into changing that, it won't really ever change. I don't believe. I mean, you'll always have certain people screaming inequality, you know, and everything else. I mean, this is 2013. When is the excuse of inequality gonna be gone? I mean, there are people who, Native Americans, for example, you don't ever hear them complaining about anything that's going on in their life. They just want to be left alone. You know, you don't ever hear them, you don't ever see them on TV complaining about anything. But yet we fail to ignore, or we fail to realize that that group of people actually probably needs a substantial amount of help. You know, there's a great deal of suicides that are amongst the Native American culture, and we don't even ever talk about that. We don't ever talk about Native Americans, even though this was originally their land. This was their country before any of this stuff. And yet we stripped them, you know, of their land, of their liberty, of their right, you know, disarmed them, forced them off their land, took their land, developed on it, moved them to a piss poor region, and secluded them, boxed them up. I mean, they're essentially really in a prison of their own.
They are,
and they don't ever cry or require or ask for anything. And those are really the ones who, you know, one of the groups that we should be helping, but we don't ever talk about them. You know.
Well, I guess the light at the end of that story would be that since they don't complain and they're not the people out there getting the advertisement and all that, is that they found a way to manage their own communities such that they help one another. And I think, you know, we can learn from that. You know, they've been oppressed. They truly have been oppressed. We took their land. But hell, I've been in this house for 3 years, and I don't know any of my neighbors. I'm just as guilty. But, you know, people need to get back to that spirit of helping one another in the community. And right. I think the Native Americans do a good job of that.
Yeah. You know, unfortunately, it's, you know, I have a fairly deep Native American ancestry, and it's I don't ever really, it's kind of sad to see that, you know, they don't pay attention to them. They're kind of like a lost society. And you know, there's a lot to learn from the Native American culture. You know, they lived on this land years before it was ever discovered. So the culture, the knowledge of all sorts of things, living, healing, holistic healing, and creation of a lot of things originally stem from that society, from that culture. But apparently there are too many other things in life that we need to focus on, and that's so they get just overlooked.
Yeah, very true. Good point. Hopefully your listeners will, take a listen to what we've had our little discussion about as far as healthcare, as far as the Native Americans, and just taking ownership of your life, not relying on the government, relying on your community, relying on your family, helping your brothers out. That's what we need to do. We don't need to look to the government to help us. They're not going to help us.
No.
Or they're going to hurt us.
Right.
So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to listening to the rest of the show, and appreciate you having me call in tonight, Ryan.
Oh, no problem, man. You're welcome to call in anytime.
All right.
Have a
Take
good night.
Bye.
So, I think we covered several different topics tonight that were actually important. And by no means was I labeling or pointing out anybody during that talk, but I think it does need to be pointed out that there is when it comes to assistance, when it comes to anything like that, there needs to be some type of regulation. There needs to be some type of maybe they need a drug test in order to get welfare. Maybe they need a drug test, and if you're doing drugs, if you're doing any of that stuff, then, we can't help you. But, if you're at least you're trying to make an effort to thrive and, better your life in society, we can help you. And that's how it should be. But unfortunately, the way the society is being ran now, it's not. So, unfortunately, yeah, so, going back to that in my original thing that I was talking about before that, when it comes to, this North Carolina Republican, Paul Stam, who doesn't want lottery tickets or anything like that, any kind of extracurricular things like that to be bought with food stamps. He has a legitimate, even though the NAACP, obviously, doesn't agree, which, we understand why, doesn't agree with that. But, whatever. Any people who go out there and work their asses off daily need to probably speak up, and write a letter or do something. Probably the only way that's going to stop. And hopefully they pass a law down in North Carolina to where that's, to where that happens. But, yeah, so, that was a good discussion. I appreciate Steven calling in. He's a good dude. And, very knowledgeable. And, appreciate all of his input. So, let's see what else was around here. We have about 5 minutes left of the show, and actually that took up a huge portion of it. I just kind of looked down, and it's almost 8 o'clock. It kind of felt like I just started the show. I guess one other thing that's being mandated by the government, and I just read this today earlier, that as of tomorrow, I'm just going to read this article real quick. As of article, users will not be able to alter their cell phones to access different networks starting tomorrow. Advocacy groups are questioning this. Starting tomorrow, buying and unlocking a phone will no longer be legal in the United States. The term unlocking a phone means to remove the security feature that prevents the phone from being used on a different network. Once a phone is unlocked, it can work on more than one carrier network. Unlocking phones is useful for those who are traveling internationally because it allows phones to work on several different networks. The Librarian of Congress, who determines any exemptions to a strict anti-hacking law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, decided in October of this last year, 2012, that unlocking cell phones would no longer be allowed. A 90-day window will be provided during which people could still buy phones and unlock them. Currently, Apple sells an unlocked iPhone 5 starting at $649, $650, and Google sells Nexus 4 unlocked for $300. Mashal reports that the Electronic Frontier Foundation is questioning the Copyright Act to determine who can unlock phones. Attorney Mitch Stoltz said that in a letter to Tech News Daily, arguably locking phone users into one carrier is not at all what the DMCA was meant to do. It's up to the courts to decide. So basically, this is it. In a nutshell, say you have an i5, or whatever. You have an i5, i4, you have a Galaxy, whatever you got, and it's on, say, it's on the Apple or Sprint or Verizon network. You cannot take that phone. Say you don't want your 2-year contract is up with Sprint or Verizon or AT&T or Team or whoever. You can't take that phone to, if you were with Verizon, you couldn't take it to Sprint. If you were a Sprint, you couldn't take it to Verizon or any other stores. And what they call it here, or what they call it, is flashing. Is flashing it to another network. Unlocking is their terminology, but flashing is what they call it here. You can't flash it to another network. So if you wanted to leave Verizon and go to Sprint or T-Mobile or one of those, you have to go through the whole process of buying a new phone. So say you have this i5 or 4S or Galaxy, whatever you got, and it's in great condition. You can't take that phone to another carrier. You have to pay another $300 or $400 and buy another phone. Which I think these copyright acts, these companies, these whoever is involved with making these ridiculous laws up, who's to say? I mean, this is my phone. I paid for it. So who's to say that I can't unlock the phone myself? So now it's against the law. And what's my punishment going to be if I take an unlocked phone to Sprint from Verizon? You gonna throw me in jail for 30 days and take my phone? I mean, what are you gonna do? You gonna fine me? I mean, I don't know. What's the punishment gonna be if you take an unlocked phone to another carrier and try and use it? No, I think you pay for the phone. You pay for the phone once. If you don't like it, it's to me, I feel like these huge corporations, Sprint, whoever they are, is involved directly or indirectly with this Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Because it takes profit out of their money, or I'm sorry, it takes profit out of their pocket, and they don't want you. It essentially. It kind of really ties you in. It kind of keeps you locked in with them. Let's say you have this perfectly good i5, and your contract's up with Verizon. Well, you want to go to Sprint because your family's on there, or whatever, and it's going to be cheaper for you to have service. Well, you have to buy a new phone now, and we all know how much phones are. For a fairly decent one, you're going to pay $300 or $400. Well, if you stay at Verizon, it's free. So they kind of got you in a catch-22, and really, I don't know. They're getting out of hand with all these things that you can do, what you can't do, and this country is really becoming fickle about how you can live your life. I mean, they say you're free. Land of the free, home of the brave, the United States of America, but slowly, with the presidency, with everything that's going on, these states are becoming divided. And people really need to open their eyes and look around and pay attention to their surroundings, because there's a lot of movement going on, and if you're simple-minded, if you're closed-minded, and you don't believe in unexpected things, or you don't believe that the government can take away everything that you have, you better think again, because slowly they're controlling you. And this is one reason, or this is one example. And everything else that Steven had called in and talked about tonight, it's all a way for them to control things that you do in your life. So anyway, that's the show for tonight. We'll be back next week, and we'll have guests in here next week. So look for that. Giving away some tickets to, haven't found out yet. There'll be more information on that. I will put that on my page, my Facebook page for the format is the format _ on 1690 AM the one.com, and from there you can find my Facebook page. Go there, and if you have anything, issues, anything you want to talk about, whatever, topic, discussions, whatever, go there. You can find me there. That's also a link to my Twitter on that page too. So anyway, appreciate all you who are listening. Stephen Harvey, I appreciate you calling in. Always great material with you. So this has been the format. I'm your host, Ryan. 1690 AM the one. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll be back next Friday, same time, 6 to 8 p.m.
It's crazy. I never thought that I would actually be singing a song about this.